Hey guys, you're probably going to see a lot of videos on YouTube on showing you how to wallpaper a wall within 60 seconds, which is absolute nonsense. Okay, first of all, the video is sped up. Most of them are sped up. And secondly, that's for a big flat wall, which is a whole different ball game to what I'm dealing with today. So I'm going to take you through all the intricacies of this job. This is my second job and is 10 times harder than the first one I did, which was just a flat wall. So let's take a look. Anytime you've got a doorway or reveals or anything like this, it becomes that much more challenging. So you can see I've got a reveal around the main door. I've got a bit of boxing in. I've had to go behind some pipes. I've got a radiator here and I've got a circuit breaker and a door here. Loads of doorways. Now, within reason, you can possibly take the radiator off, but how much time is that going to take you? To be honest, it's probably just easier to cut around these things. But yes, it is very, very challenging. I'll give you an example of where, you start to run the paper up here and you flap it. It's hard to describe it. Once you flap it around one face, you can't flap it around the other, and you inevitably end up with a gap, which you have to fill. So you have to bear that in mind. Anyway, let's take a look at the tools you're going to require for this job. By no means exhaustive. We've got a spirit level, or you could use a laser level as I've got there to get you your starting point, and you regularly check that as you go along. Tape measure, a trimming knife with adjustable blades, snap-off blades. I've got some grips there. I don't particularly find the end of those knives useful to snap the blade off, so I use a pair of water pump pliers or pliers just to snap the blade off. A pencil, a pair of sharp scissors. They must be really sharp, otherwise you're going to be in all sorts of trouble. A wallpaper spreader. In my case, I'm using a tile adhesive or grout spreader, but something similar, basically a plastic spreader plate. We've got a wide paintbrush. You also could potentially use a roller and a roller sleeve if you want to really do large areas. When I'm doing intricate stuff like this, all I end up using is a paintbrush, but when you're doing big walls, flat walls, then you obviously use a roller. We've got a paddle mixer that will go in the drill, so you need a drill as well to mix up the wallpaper paste. A little step ladder like this, or a large ladder depending on what you're doing. A bucket to mix up your wallpaper paste. Then you got your wallpaper paste, some gloves and a dust sheet. Oh, one more thing is a wallpaper edging tool, which I haven't really used on this job. But what it is basically is a straight edge, metal straight edge that you can run your trimming knife along and get a nice, neat, straight cut. The first thing you're going to do is make sure your walls are in reasonable condition. Now, that might seem counterintuitive because part of the reason you're probably using wallpaper, apart from the pattern, is to cover up poor condition walls. But you have to make some effort, and in my case, I did make a rookie error. I will fully admit I am a newbie to this. This is only my second job, so any useful comments, please put them in the comment section below. But you can probably just about make out the tram tracks in that sheet of wallpaper to the right, where I'd previously removed the handrail and not sanded down completely. I did sand it down a bit, but not completely, the lines from the paint that were around the handrail. So the upper bit, I'm going to make sure I do that. I've obviously filled one of the holes. I'm going to sand it down properly. So within reason, you do have to make it fairly smooth, because otherwise you're going to see it through the wallpaper, and especially in areas where it's very visible, you need to make sure that's good. To me, there's only a few things that set apart a really good wallpapering job from a mediocre one. One of them being keeping the paper plumb. Now, you do this, as you can see here, by using a laser level or a spirit level marker line on the wall. And the reason it's important is because if you don't do that, you'll find that the paper starts to drift at an angle slightly. And then if you've got patterned wallpaper with intricate patterns, they don't line up after a little while. So the way you're going to correct that is, first of all, make sure that you check the level every, say, 2 or 3 sheets, make sure it's still plumb. And if it isn't, then you're going to try and work it out incrementally. So let's say you're out by 3 or 4 millimeters, then you just, over the next 3 or 4 sheets, you then just take them overlap by a millimeter each time, and then you just use a very sharp knife with a straight edge and just slice the excess off. If you're going to make your own wallpaper paste as opposed to buying it, which is obviously cheaper, I'm going to show you how to do that. I've already made the rookie mistake of pouring the powder in too quickly to the water, and then it all goes lumpy and you end up with lumps of wallpaper paste behind your wallpaper, which you don't want. So, most important thing is put in a decent amount of water and then slowly, very, very slowly pour it in, but mix it at the same time as you're pouring it. I'm using a paddle drill, I'm using a drill and a paddle mixer, but you can use a bucket trowel, anything to mix it up with. Just do it very, very slowly until it gets to a reasonable thickness. Still can be quite runny because it's going to thicken up, and you're going to test it again in a couple of minutes time and then add some more water if you need to. Right, join me now at a point where I'm going around the corner here. Couple of things. First of all, time is money, so I would strongly recommend you get yourself some pre-mixed adhesive. It's going to be more expensive, but it saves you all the hassle of mixing it out, and it's got a perfect consistency. Sometimes it's quite hard to not do it without lumps, so I would suggest you buy some of this. I use a paintbrush for all this sort of intricate work. You might want to use a roller if you're doing big areas, but it will be a lot quicker. So, more is more in this case, not less is more. Just slap loads of adhesive on and spread it out, but do not skimp on this. So we're getting that edge correct first so they all marry up. We're going to work our way across. This is where the squeegee like this comes in handy. I'm just going to cut off roughly where I need to be. What you want to do as you go around is to cut off any excess, because excess paper is your enemy. It makes it really hard to fold into difficult spaces, so just cut off any excess you need to. That was a delay, wasn't it? It's like my brain's trying to catch up with my mouth. Just in case, looking for any lumps and bumps. If you do have any dry areas, you're going to see it. That's why I say you should put on plenty of paste. Now, I personally, really with anything like this, you want to go around the corner as far as you possibly can. I can't always guarantee that because I had so many obstacles. I wasn't really sure where I was going to end up. You can't factor in everything, but I'm happy with that. That's enough. What you don't want to do is have just a little bit going past the corner. And ideally, you don't really want to cut in the corners to have two pieces meeting, because often these corners are plastered and they're just not very accurate. Highly likely to tear the paper out of an uneven edge. So one thing you've got to watch out for with some of these papers, just look carefully at the design. This looks very generic. It is a very repeatable pattern, and I thought that you could actually hang it either way, but I'm going to show you an example. If you look there, you can see I hung it upside down there. There's only one area, and I think it's not going to catch your eye. But if I go back to the other one, you'll see that because I put it the right way up, the circles are in line, okay? But something you also need to know is that none of these papers are probably perfect, especially cheap stuff like this. One caveat to what I said before, when I said slap as much paste on as you can, yes, within reason, just to say, make sure you spread it out, because if you put too much on, you're going to end up with these creases, and what those are is too much wallpaper paste. Now, if you act quickly, what you can do is use your squeegee to squidge it out all the way to the edge of the wallpaper and squeeze all the excess out. But obviously, don't leave it like that. Could be a pocket of air as well. Could be where you've actually missed it and not put enough paste on. But obviously, you don't want crinkles and creases in the paper like this. Right, I'm going to show you how to go around a doorway now. So obviously, you just started that off. Just get it in place. Now, rather than fold that there and then try and do it, you've got to do it in two two steps. So first of all, you make that cut, or you make that top cut, one or the other, and then you do the other one. So let's fold that back. Make sure it's right in, dug in there. No creases. It's looking pretty good. Yep. We can come back to that in a minute. So for this party wall, the first thing I'm going to be doing is to wallpaper paste most of the wall, not all of it, just so I can get the wallpaper up and attached to the wall on the roll, and then I can cut it to length. So here I'm just dragging it up. I'm going to get the pattern lined up, and then I'm going to let it drop down and then slice it off. And now I've cut the excess off, I can actually continue to apply the wallpaper with some paste. You know, I said there was only a few things that separate a really good job from a mediocre one. Well, this is one of them. It's getting a nice edge on the wallpaper. Using a wallpaper edging tool is obviously really handy, but of course you have to have quite neat edges for that. I'm not sure how the paper is going to sit if I cut it straight, but then all the paper and the edging of the stringer of the staircase is all sort of wiggly. So what you just seen me do there is to very gingerly try to start off the cut. I've laid my blade very, very shallow. That means it's less likely to tear and snag. And well, that will happen because the paper's now wet. At some point, it probably will snag and tear, but you might get away with it if you've got a really sharp blade. So first of all, make sure you snapped off that blade to get to a new sharp point. Lay it shallow, cut it along, and then if you get into trouble, use scissors. Scissors will never, ever go wrong. Scissors, as long as they're sharp, will always cut correctly. You can use a pencil to mark it on, as I'm going to do. And then you just cut it with the scissors and you can't go wrong. It's just quicker with a knife. And if you're careful, you can get away with it. You can pretty much start a wallpapering job wherever you want, but I suspect it's probably better to start off with the really long pieces on the party wall. That way you can get those plumb, and then the shorter pieces downstairs or upstairs will follow suit, as opposed to what I did, which was start downstairs. They went slightly out of plumb and it kicked my party wall long sheets out of whack, and it was a lot harder to correct them. Stop! You're not about to paint the wall, are you? Or what have you been doing, smoking the pancakes? You gotta wait a couple of days till it dries out, then you can paint it. So there you go, guys. That's all I've learned in the last few days about wallpapering. Hope that was helpful for you and encourage you to do your own projects. If you do like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. I'm making loads of videos on fixing things, building work, sustainability, permaculture and so on. So please keep checking in and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.